Hello, my fellow webheads. It's your friendly neighborhood Jerry Rasco, and today we are together to talk about the Amazing Spider-Man number 59. This is a pretty interesting book. I'm very excited to take a look at it with you. This one has some different stuff that we haven't seen in the comics so far. Um, it's the start of a new storyline. So we've just finished up the culmination of the Spidey amnesia story, which came out of the return of Dr. Octopus, his battle with Kazar, which returned his memory to him, and then a battle against Spider Slayer. So Spidey's been going pretty hard for a while. Um, and so now it's time to get back to his life a little bit and see what's going on. And this one involves apparently a new villain called the Brainwasher. We'll find out a little bit more about him. And Mary Jane dancing in a club. This is again a late 1960s book. So the concept of the go-go dancer was apparently a popular thing at the time. It was before my time. But it's kind of funny, and it definitely does read as slightly older people writing and trying to write a book for you trying to write young characters in a way that feels natural, and it doesn't always hit the spot. So it'll be interesting to look at. Before we get into that, the first thing I want to do, of course, as always, is say thank you to everybody who is a subscriber of the channel. It means a great deal to me and to the channel, and it has helped us to spread the word and through the algorithm of what we're doing here on the channel. So this Amazing Spider-Man series that you're watching, my Incredible Hulk series that you're watching, and I have made moves to procure more comics in this format so that we can do other series as well. And I'm very much looking forward to that and continuing this concept and process with you. So very excited and thankful again to everybody who subscribed. Now, don't forget, our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're making progress, but we need more help. We need you to spread the word. So if there's somebody you know who likes comics, again, don't forget, it's Amazing Spider-Man, it's the Hulk, and we're going to have other Marvel comics that we're going to be reviewing in the near future as well. So point them out, get them to check out the channel, hopefully subscribe, and there's a couple of things that are happening. One, you could win free art. So when we get to 1,000 subscribers, one lucky subscriber will be picked at random. It's completely free to subscribe and to be part of this process, and you will be picked out of the hat at random to win this piece of Amazing Spider-Man art by yours truly, as well as this piece of Incredible Hulk art by yours truly. So if you want to win some free color art, if you want to be part of this community that we're building, please consider subscribing. We have a lot of cool stuff. We've got more guests coming to do shows with us in the future. Like I said, different titles are going to be added. We're going to get back to the art giveaways. Hopefully some live streaming once maybe in the summer, once things kind of calm down a little bit. We're very busy at the moment. So keep your eyes open for that. And the way you do that is by clicking that subscribe button, so you'll always see our videos coming up, and think about clicking on the notify, and then that way you don't miss anything. So that all said, let's cut over to the comic and let's take a look at it together. So this is the cover to the Amazing Spider-Man 59, and it's good. It's interesting. It's very bright, very vibrant. You have this interesting dichotomy of Spidey beating up some thugs behind the curtain, and Mary Jane dancing in front of a crowd in front of the curtain. The only problem that I have with it is that this dividing line of the curtain, yes, you could tell at the bottom it sways back and it's a curtain. This title down at the bottom, the brand of the Brainwasher, kind of covers up that bit of the curtain, as well as seeing the floorboards kind of continue from left to right across. So at first glance, it very much appears like it's a split cover, almost like you would think of like a split book or a flip book, where you're going to get half a Spider-Man story and then half a Mary Jane story. So one of the ways you could fix that is the curtain could have slightly overlapped the side of Mary Jane, maybe the very back of her head, part of her arm and foot, and then it would be much clearer that she's dancing in front of the curtain and Spidey is fighting bad guys behind it. But overall, I mean, it's good. The lack of a villain may also, I could see people might have missed this one, right? When you see a comic cover and it has Dr. Ock standing over a knocked out Spider-Man, you want to pick up that cover to find out what's going to happen. Here, Spidey's fighting some regular thugs and Mary Jane is dancing. Now, maybe you're like, hey, I gotta flip it through this book because I gotta see Mary Jane dance. More power to you, but it doesn't have the drama that is going to really help sell the book per se. So if I had to guess, I would guess that maybe this one might have had a smaller purchase, numbers. But I don't have any data to back that up. That's just speculation on my part. But I will point out a couple of things here. One, I really like this idea of Spidey just open hand slapping people. We've seen it before, and we're going to see it more in the book as well. When he's dealing with just regular people, he's not using a closed fist because he could kill people, so he's just slapping them around, which I think is hilarious. I think it's great and a nice little subtle nod. Then the other part that I wanted to talk about is the shading on the figures in the crowd real quick, because I don't know that we've seen it before in one of the comics for us to review. So I wanted to kind of point that out. So in fact, I'm going to zoom in fairly big so we can really see it there. So you see how it's shapes in black. So it's just silhouettes. And then it fades from the black into this cross hatching. And the larger the space between the lines or the dots in the middle, the lighter it gets to dark, right? So it's a fade. This material and then it's all cut out at the bottom for the yellow, right? So this is referred to as zipatone. And what it is, it's the pattern of this dark to light hatching is built into the material, and it's clear. It's on clear adhesive, like a clear. I don't know if it's acetate. I'm not sure the exact material, but it's a very plasticky kind of material, and it's on a sheet. You cut out the shapes you want. So you would cut out these silhouettes and then peel it and stick it onto the art. So it just saves you from having to try to draw these grades or this cross hatching in this style. And then so where you want the yellow to show through, you just cut that part out. So whether you cut it out ahead or you take an X-Acto knife and cut it once it's on the board, either way, the yellow shines through. So think about this is the cross hatching piece is just on top of that yellow background. It's something that was used a lot because at the time you didn't obviously have computer coloring, so you couldn't do something like a Photoshop gradient from black to gray. You couldn't create custom brushes that could do this over the top and do it in layers. You had to do it physically, and to do it, you know that's how you would do it. You'd stick a pre-patterned sticky plastic basically to the art, cut into the shapes that you want. So it's cool stuff. Today, you can get brushes in Photoshop that will replicate this style, which is pretty cool. It's kind of a neat retro thing that you see sometimes. It's fun, especially if you're doing a black and white comic, to do that. Zipatone, like I said, it was stuff you could buy. Obviously, it's not manufactured anymore. But it came in different patterns. So you might have straight lines or this kind of hatching or circles or all kinds of different patterns that you could use. The other one, it's not used here, but I'll mention it real quick, was called Duo Shade. So Duo Shade was interesting. Again, also something they don't make anymore, but that's because of the chemicals. So the paper had like multiple patterns in it that you couldn't see, and you had a special chemical that you had to dip your brush in and paint on, and that chemical would reveal the the different shades or the different pattern underneath it. And depending on how much chemical you used, it might remove some of the white, and so it'd be very light, or more of it and be darker, so you could get multi-tones of gray depending on how much chemical on the brush that you applied to the paper. This is the most famous one that I'm aware of because it was certainly of my time. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, the black and white from Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, they used duo shade, and that's how they got the multi-tone grays on the paper. But the chemical was extremely dangerous. I'm pretty sure it was carcinogenic, fumes, all that kind of stuff. So that's why they stopped making it. But the effect was really cool. But anyway, that's something that we haven't seen so far in the series, and I just wanted to point it out because I think it's a very cool technique that we don't see nearly as often anymore because of computer coloring today. As always, I point out this is a scanned PDF copy of this comic. So you're going to see all these ads. You're going to see the original coloring. You're going to see all that kind of stuff. This is printed on newsprint. So you're going to see how the ink affects it. The paper has yellowed, all that kind of stuff. But again, this is how it would have looked like when you picked it up off the rack back in the 60s. So, and according to the indicia here, this is April 1968. So we are still in 1968. And according to the credits you can see here, we're still talking about this same team that's been working on the book for the past several issues. Stan is still writing. John Romita is still doing your layouts. We've talked about that before. You can go back to several different episodes I've done that discusses the difference between breakdowns, layouts, pencils, rough pencils, finished pencils, and inks. So John Romita is doing the layout of the page. Don Heck is coming in and doing the finished pencils. So he's doing all the detailed drawing work of the figures. And then Mickey DeMio, aka Mike Esposito, is coming in and inking the drawings. So again, it's interesting. It's not quite what we've seen from John Romita. It definitely is not quite the same styles you would see from a pure Don Heck book. It's something in the middle, which is very much its own thing. This splash page is good. Great picture of Spidey, big Spidey sticking to the wall. Nice low angle of the cop cars shining their spotlights on him. Because of his brief teaming up while he had amnesia, teaming up with Dr. Octopus, the authorities are still after him. They still think that he may be a criminal, so they're still after him. One thing I will say about this, though, so I like the low angle of the cop car and kind of looking up in the spotlights, but if Spidey's sticking to the wall, and this is that low angle, he's only a couple feet off the ground, right? So it might have been a better, instead of being a low angle on the car, maybe do a higher angle looking down past Spidey to the cars towards the ground and the lights coming up. Just my 2 cents. The other thing is, I said this happened in the previous issues with this team up. There's a lot of dead space. So I don't know if this is, I mean, it's still John Romita layouts. So he's still drawing like the rough figures and where they would go on the page. And usually he's not going to do that. But look at all this dead space that's around Spidey where you've got to do something with it. Now, so Spidey could have been 10%, maybe 15% larger on this page. And that's great. Anytime you can have your hero, make your hero as big as you possibly can in the panel. That's what people are paying money for. Nobody wants to see a little itty bitty drawing of Spider-Man. They want to see a big, cool drawing of Spider-Man. So, use that space, that size. You're not saving it over here. There's no dialogue balloons. There's nothing happening over here. So fill up that space. Now instead, we've got this hatching, which normally I do like cross hatching shadows. I think it's a neat way to add texture, especially the way they're doing it here, where it's the shadows in between the lights. However, that said, I like the technique, but the lighting doesn't work. And here's why. There's these bright spotlights, which is great, and they're doing the hatching. Now, you have this, I'm going to zoom in on it. You have this cross hatching of the wall that Spidey is on. Perfect. That's no problem. except the fact that it does have kind of the exact same or very, very similar size of hatching that he used for the web backpack. So when they draw Spidey's webbing, they use this sort of cross hatching technique to show the web. And it's almost the same pattern as what's behind him. So at first glance, you might go, is the wall covered with his webbing? No, it's his shadow. And the shadow's not drawn right. So there's this line coming from his feet. Unless he's on, even if he's standing on his toes, the toes themselves that are touching the wall would cast a shadow. Even if the heel is up, it might cast a shadow. His body would cast a shadow. There's no shadow. It's just the bright light. And there's enough that the way they're showing it, it's hitting his foot, and that foot is casting such a long shadow behind him, it goes all the way out of the circle of light. Well, where's the rest of his body? Where's the rest of the shadow of his body? 1. 2, the figure here, Spidey, is not affected by the light. If the bright light is shining on him and it's casting a shadow back to the right like that, then everything on the right side of him should be blacked out because the light is so strong. The inside of this leg should be almost solid black. This whole side of his torso, all the abs where he's bent over, his body should be shading it. The inside of this arm, they tried it with a little darker line, but it should be much darker. Same with this side, the underside of the jaw, neck, all that stuff. So because his figure doesn't reflect the lighting that they're showing you, but the background does, things become completely disconnected and it becomes a little confusing. The other thing I would say, this cross hatching shadow is cool. And they did it again on this other building over here in the area that's between the lights, right? So as you're looking through the lights, it's just yellow, and they did it over here. I would have flipped these textures, meaning I would have put the lighter cross-hatching texture on this wall and the darker one behind, because the darker one wants to be pushed into the background. That's just a general rule of the illusion of 3 dimensions, which is things that are darker are pushed back into the background, things that are brighter are towards the foreground, and it's just the way that our eyes view stuff and the way we see things. So yeah, I would say I would have swapped those. So it's a cool technique. I don't know if it was used to its best, to the best usage of it. Let's see here. Interesting angles. I mean, we've got, this nice Dutch angle and Spidey webbing up the cops. Again, kind of a low angle. And then an angle up above as he's, webbing him into like a net, and then them looking up again and him swinging off. So it's very interesting. The camera, I talk a lot about camera. And again, if you're not following, go back, please check out the playlist. There's tons of videos. We talk about a lot of these terminology. The camera is the viewer's eyes, and we can't move the camera. We move the drawing and how it interacts with us. And it's like moving a video or movie camera around through the scene, and it changes a lot, which is great. It keeps it interesting. It keeps it moving. Sometimes Spidey is moving to us. Sometimes he's moving away. It's terrific. That stuff is great. The other thing that I said about this that I don't like is the sky is too bright in these 3 panels. So over here, it's got a darker tone, some lines. It's at night. How do we know it's at night? Because they're using super bright spotlights, and over here, the sky is sort of this brownish gray color with some lines in it. Makes a lot of sense. In the next scene, it's a light blue. And then here it's a light blue, and as he swings off, it's a light blue. So is it bright day or is it dark out? If it's dark, make it dark. So I didn't like that part. Again, it just is confusing storytelling. If it's night, make the sky night every time you see the sky. If it's daytime, do it daytime. But don't go back and forth, because now all of a sudden things don't work. The lighting doesn't work, or it's just not, just being consistent is important, right? So Spidey heads to the hospital to see Aunt May. Aunt May has been in the hospital just because she has worried herself into the hospital, worrying about Peter. And you go, wow. I mean, he's moved out of the house. He doesn't live with her. He is a college student. So he's at least like 19, 20 years old, probably at this point. And she literally worries herself into unconsciousness because she hasn't heard from him in a couple days and just panics. And just like, wow, crazy. One more thing. The note. Is this nighttime? Is it daytime? It says it's 10 o'clock. There's a clock here. So it's either 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. And if it's 10 o'clock in the morning, what is going on with this sky? There's a big thunderstorm or something. So I'm assuming it's 10 o'clock at night. So Peter sneaks in and goes to visit Aunt May. I really like this here. Again, sometimes it's the subtleties that really can make or break a comic. So he sneaks through the air vents, goes into a broom closet and changes. And this little silhouette of him coming out of the broom closet is great. You could have cut from him changing and just saying something like, oof, I got to change up, and then have him walk in. We would have known he changed. But I like this little silhouette piece of him stepping out of the broom closet. I thought that was cool. As well as, again, good shots, good angle changes. Looking up at him climbing the ceiling, a nice perspective shot of him climbing through the vents, the air vents coming towards us. Nice movement of the camera. That stuff is all very, very good. So everybody's happy. He doesn't have a story to explain where he's been. So he doesn't want to, give away anything. And so he's like, hey, I'm here. And let's see. Aunt May. Oh, yeah. So as the doctor comes in to check on her, he's like, who are you? And so Aunt May is actually saying, he's my dear nephew, Peter. He's back at last. And the doctor says, the one that was missing, oh, I'm glad you're back. But Aunt May is thinking this. They put it in a thought balloon instead of a speech balloon. So that's a lettering mistake right there. You got to know, is this being said out loud, or is this being said in a person's inner monologue? This is said out loud, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So that's a lettering mistake there that I noted, where there's usually not too many of them, but that's one. So he realizes he was listed as a missing person, so he has to go to the police, and they inform him that the Daily Bugle said he was kidnapped by Spider-Man, because everybody jumped to that conclusion. Harry Osborn, if you remember, found a spider tracer in their apartment and just deduced that Spider-Man must have kidnapped Peter. And so he's like, okay, that's the story. Yep. He kidnapped me. He had me blindfolded. He had amnesia. He didn't know who I was. Once he got his memory back, he recognized who I was. I'm the guy who takes photographs of him, and he let me go. So that's how he explains it all away. So here he's talking to the police, and city officials and stuff like that. So including Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy's dad. So he covers that. Again, it's always hard to draw crowds of people. You got to come up with different characters, different looks. What are they doing? And you're probably only going to draw them once or twice. So it's hard to, sometimes to get invested in those characters if they're not reoccurring characters. So he gets everything squared away, and the police are onto other things, and he takes a walk with Captain Stacy so that they can talk. And Captain Stacy takes him to his house. Now, it's interesting, right? They're at the police station. He's like, can you spare a few minutes? And he says, I guess so. And then the next thing is they're immediately like, I've been studying Spider-Man. Here's my house. And you're like, wow, how much time transpired between them walking out of the police station and him walking to his house? Like, unless he lives next door, this is more than just a minute probably. But Captain Stacy is like, listen, you've engaged with him. You've taken a lot of photos of him. I don't think he's a criminal. What do you think? And, you know, so clearly Captain Stacy's been um, thinking about Spider-Man, his motivations, who he is, what he's, all that kind of stuff. So, and he's really fighting. He's like, hey, I want to prove that he's actually innocent. He didn't kidnap you. He wasn't working with Dr. Octopus. He had amnesia. I want to prove it. So Captain Stacy's on his side, which is great. And then Gwen walks in, and I go, wow. So immediately Gwen walks in and goes right for hugging and kissing on the lips. And I went, well, I guess we're really past the flirting phase of Peter and Gwen. And I guess this is really becoming a real thing. At least at this point, I'd say, yeah, they're going to become an item. Um, and just the way like they walk. So she's like, hey, I'm so glad to see you. I was so worried, all that kind of stuff. And then, hey, we're going to go see Harry and everybody at the coffee shop. And, from the way that they interact, the way she's, touching his face, they walk into the coffee shop. Peter literally has his arm around her. She's hanging on him here, and talking about what's going on. So it looks like this is the moment maybe where they're officially going to become a couple, Peter and Gwen. You talk about having a party, I guess, to celebrate Peter being okay. And he's like, where's Mary Jane? And that's when they mention she is dancing at the Gloom Room A Go-Go. And I go, the Gloom Room A Go-Go. What an awful name. Why would anybody go to the Gloom Room? So weird. But okay. And so there's somebody here who is the boss who's running things. And they've got a lab here. So this questionable, this secret person in the chair is being referred to as the Brainwasher. And they have built this brainwashing lab. They're going to use the club to get prominent folks in the city to come in, and they're going to use Mary Jane to sort of initially temporarily brainwash them, get them back into the lab, and then program them for what they want to do. And it's worked so far. They've used it on, I think it's a judge who let some people out of jail, stuff like that. And they want to do it more. So I said, it's a cool, quirky lab setup. It's nice overlapping. You have this nice, real close up of the door. So, assuming through the office, it'd be nice if they had set up the door in the scene before. So maybe behind, or instead of this bookcase, there's a door here near the Brainwasher, and then we see through the door. But it's clear enough that it's a door handle, and the Brainwasher's dialogue balloons are coming from off screen. And I don't know who this guy is. He's a crazy scientist who's done this, but it's this quirky, weird pseudoscience lab stuff, but it's fun. The assistant DA released criminals because they use the brainwashing machine. So it works great. Spidey swinging through the city. This is the thing I mentioned. I put in my notes. I said, this is a jacked Spidey. I don't mean jacked like jacked up like it's a messed up drawing. In terms of the pose and the anatomy and stuff, it's great. This Spidey has been taking steroids. He is jacked. Look how wide he is. Look how big these arms are. His forearms are like Popeye. His forearms are as big as his biceps. I like a leaner Spidey most of the time. You see that, throughout these other panels, it's a little more clear that he's not super huge. He can be muscular but lean, but this swinging Spidey right here is jacked up. This guy's built like Captain America, not teenage Peter Parker. let's see. Yep. So he sees these guys. They're robbing a what's it? A loan checks cash. So like a pawn shop of some kind or a check cashing place. Something like that. And these guys come out and he just cleans them up in minutes. And again, just sort of slamming their heads together, throwing them around like dolls, smacking one guy into another guy. And then just this one, I said, my note was he just slapped the taste out of that guy's mouth. Look at, I mean, he takes with an open hand. This is so good. I don't know why I find it so funny, but he with an open left hand takes this guy off his feet in a arc that is unbelievable. This guy's gonna land right on his head. I'm amazed his shoes are still on. They didn't knock him right out of his shoes and socks. This is just hilarious to me. Just great. Just pow. And he says, yeah, if I used my fist, how would they identify you? So yeah, he recognizes like he could quite literally crush these guys with a punch. However, so that as cool as that is, and as much as I like it, I think it's a great picture, great pose of Spidey. The guy's on the ground. You got a little silhouette of some onlookers. You don't need to draw him. The silhouette is perfect. It's a great panel. We cut to this one where he's kind of webbing him up in a net, and the webbing is wrong. Now, this one, we've seen it a couple times where he only uses the one finger for his webbing instead of the two fingers that we're used to, that becomes the standard. The one finger is a little weird. The no fingers and just being like that one doesn't make sense based on how the web shooters work. He has to depress a button. It's manual. So that one is a mess up there. I don't know why they did it that way, but again, it's a small detail. But when you're a super Spidey comic book nerd like I am, I'm looking at these details and I'm going, why didn't somebody at the early stages go, wait, he goes like this, he's got to at least push the button. You did it with one hand, why didn't you do it with the other one? So anyway, that's wrong, and it bothers me, and so I want to point it out. This swinging here is a little stiff as well, just because there's no bend to the upper torso. If you took this image and you cut it at the waist and you rotated it so that it was perfectly straight and you just put some straight legs on it, he could be standing. He's not bending, twisting, much of anything. The hands are coming out towards you and back, but there's no real twist of the shoulders or anything. It's a very stiff figure. So especially of all characters, Spider-Man is flexible, agile, bendy, twisty. Make sure you are drawing him that way. So we get to the club. Mary Jane is kind of, I guess, practicing, auditioning. I don't know. She's got the job, so why she's dancing for funsies, I don't know. But she's, I guess, being like, hey, is this okay? And they're like, yeah, that's great. Here's this old-timey camera. Again, this is 1968. People have cameras that don't look like they were made by Thomas Edison. You know what I mean? Like the big giant flash, and you got to hold it with two hands to take a picture. Like, people had cameras that were like this. Like, I don't understand why she needs such an old-timey camera. But anyway, I mentioned here in my notes, I said the female faces are good. So this face of Mary Jane is good. It's very pretty. This one's good as well. We have Gwen here is pretty well done. I felt like they're just a touch underneath the Romita standard. If there's one thing that John Romita Sr. is famous for, is the way that he drew his women. He made Mary Jane, who's really a supporting character. We won't talk about years later where she becomes a hero at different times and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about, there's other characters that he's had that are more, the Black Cat or, heroes, villains, all that kind of stuff. She's a supporting character. but she's iconic. And why is she iconic? Because of the way that John Romita designed her and drew her. And it's just not quite up to the normal standards. So, and that's where you get this mix of what is it? Is it the Don Heck penciling over John Romita? Is it the Mike Esposito inks where he's taking more liberties because maybe, when John Romita's drawing, he's very specific. Maybe Don Heck is drawing a little looser, so Mike Esposito's got to fill in the gaps, with the inks. I don't know. But it's, it's not quite up to snuff. Very good. Don't get me wrong. Very, very good. But if I had it at my fingertips, I'd put a John Romita drawn and inked Mary Jane next to it, and you'd see what I'm talking about. Let's see here. All right, so they get to the club and they see some of these people again. Here's the people, Councilman, Captain Stacy, stuff like that. So apparently they play music. Again, I was not alive to go to a club in 1968, but apparently they play music and they have a dancer who's just up on stage dancing, and then other people are dancing along with the music as well. So you go, okay, I guess that's what they did. I'll believe it. Interestingly as well, Peter is wearing a black suit. Captain Stacy's wearing like a dark suit as well. Harry is wearing this checkered green. Interesting, considering his dad was the Green Goblin, right? Just a cute note that you're going to put Harry Osborn of all people in green. Nice little nod. Maybe intentional, maybe not, but cool. So yeah, this is the camera I'm talking about. This camera, if this is 1968, this camera is already like 20 years old. Like, this thing is so ancient. It's crazy. She does not take their picture because she's only taking pictures of, again, these city officials, councilman, Captain Stacy, etc. When it does, they start to feel dizzy, like they need to go out and get some air. But instead of walking out and getting air, they go back into the room of the Brainwasher and wash and control their minds. So Captain Stacy gets it. He goes back, but he's resisting the initial hypnosis from the camera, and they've got to force him into the machine. Again, nice stuff. Always great idea to use these framing devices. If you have this not empty space, but you have a big panel with a lot of space like this, if you can set up multiple planes of objects, it helps emphasize the depth. So it helps create that illusion. So you have this device up front that is bigger. It's all colored in red, which is nice to separate it from the background. The contour lines should be thicker. They're not too thick, but you should have darker, thicker lines. Then you have this middle ground of the scientist and the equipment. Then you have towards the background Captain Stacy. So it's a nice setup, good depth, good panel. It's been a while. He doesn't come back. So Peter's like, oh, I'll go look. And he crawls outside. So this is where I talked about this in another video as well. You can, when you have a character, if you're an artist and you're drawing your character in a cityscape like Spidey is, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I'm going to draw bricks. Why would you do this? One, when you draw a lot of bricks, it looks like, it makes everybody think, or you think as an artist, hey, I'm putting in a lot of detail. Look at all the lines I'm drawing just in the background of this brick. And brick is easy to do. It's parallel horizontal lines, and you just alternate the vertical lines. It's easy to do, but can add a lot of detail. I have certainly done drawings where I have gone crazy with the background, drawn a lot of bricks. It works until it doesn't. And in this panel, it doesn't. And I'll show you why. And this is the problem you run into when you do this. So everything is in perspective. You have to remember that. And the term of when it comes to perspective is how things how objects are angled or move on a 2D plane to look like they are going back into the distance or forward into the foreground, right? So that's kind of an idea of perspective. So what you do is you pick your horizon line. Everybody's done this probably in elementary school. You draw a line, it's your horizon line, you pick a dot in the middle, and from that dot, you draw two lines that come out. So they meet at the dot and they come all the way out, and it's a road going off into the distance. And you've all seen this if you've ever driven in a, the middle of America. It can be very open and flat, and the road in front of you just goes all the way to the horizon. You can't see it anymore. So everything vanishes to that point. That's why they're called vanishing points. And you can have 2 vanishing points, 3 vanishing points, and that's how you have different kinds of perspective. Well, in this case, all these brick lines are going back to one point. So they're not going to be perfectly parallel. They're going to slightly turn as they go up and down. So you're going to have one that's going to be perfectly horizontal. And then from above that, they're going to slightly tip up. And the ones are going to slightly tip down because they're all going to point, again, eventually to that vanishing line in the distance. No problem. Your bricks can do that. So does the window. And the window frame is in a different perspective than the bricks. Notice it doesn't line up with any of these lines. So this is pointing to a different vanishing point. If you trace that out, it doesn't match up. And that's where you run into your problem. And it's very easy when you're doing a bunch of little bricks like this to lose your vanishing point. And now all of a sudden, some are like this. They're all over the place. Now, bricks don't have to be perfectly symmetrical because they are somewhat of an organic thing. No 2 bricks are exactly the same. But here's the problem. Everything else has to follow that same general perspective to the vanishing point, and it doesn't. This window casing is on a different now the bottom here looks okay, and the inside of the window frame itself looks pretty good. It's the top of the window frame that got away from them, and that is not pointing to the same vanishing point. Here's the other thing. This other building is also doing the same thing. It's pointing back down, but it's pointing at a completely different vanishing point. And so again, all the perspective in this is wrong because you went ahead and decided to do a ton of bricks, and you didn't have to do a ton of bricks. You could just do a few here and there to show it. It's not a big deal, like it is up here. So just something to watch out for. It's great, and it looks like it's an so see down here where there's just a few hints of bricks here and there. There's some in the corner, some there. It tells us it's a brick wall. You could have done the exact same thing up here. But they decided to go nuts and be like, look at all the detail we put into it. It looks like that until you screw it up. And when you screw it up, again, if you're somebody who's like, hey, I'm looking at this from an art perspective, it's going to throw you off. Immediately, I recognize it and went, that's wrong. There's something wrong there. So the rest of it is good. Let's see. Bricks and window frame not in the same perspective. Yep. Edge of wall panel 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, yeah. There's this weird edge of the wall. I didn't understand this. Again, I don't know if they're trying to be cute or what the deal is, but so we see that this guy is around the corner, and it is a square corner. It is a corner of a building. It's a perfectly vertical line. Now when we come here, is this supposed to be his shadow? Or is this supposed to be the edge of the building? If it is, why is it all jaggedy? Why wouldn't it just be a vertical line? You can do the cross hatching behind him to show the light. This alleyway that he's coming down is shadowed. That's not a problem. But I don't understand the irregular shape of this, what it's supposed to be. Because if it's supposed to be his shadow, why doesn't Spidey cast a shadow? I mean, the whole thing is very strange. Actually, that brings me to another point. I'll throw this out. The lighting is not consistent. So when Spidey attaches to the wall, the shadow is going out behind him. So that means that the light is facing him, which is why he's illuminated. Okay. His chest is casting a shadow over his thighs. His shoulder is casting a shadow over this thigh. The head is casting a little shadow over the shoulder. Great. I got it. Makes sense. He climbs through this window. So I guess the idea is he's on the outside. This is the inside of the building. It's not clear. And again, that's another reason why I wouldn't do both of these walls as the same texture, because it's not clear. Like, is he climbing in foot first, or is he climbing out of the window? So anyway, his shadow is going off to the left, which again tells you that the light is coming from now behind him, and the shadows are going that way. You get the shadow of the wall, the window, no problem. That's all great. If this is a shadow of this guy, and then here the shadow's going behind him, why isn't the shadow coming forward? Because we've already established that the light source is on the right hand of the page. So why is all of a sudden is there another light source? I'm sorry, I understand the action lines of the kick, the force of the kick where he kicks the gun out of the guy's hand, but the kick is not lighting anything up. So you still need to be consistent with your lighting, and they kind of drop the ball here. And then yeah, now it's all over the place. So what angle is this? So this is the guy that he kicked, but now from a different direction comes another guy, and I'm like, what? I don't understand the lighting and stuff. It almost looks like it's a different scene, right? So he kicks this guy goes down. Is this guy coming from back over here? If so, then the lighting is changed again. It's very confusing to me. I don't have a problem with the action, and I can follow the story along, but if you're just getting into the details, it's confusing. I do want to zoom in on this, and you will find as you follow through this series, I sometimes will really find the minutia and be like, that is awesome. And sometimes it's the little things instead of the big splash or the big, half panel of Spidey. This figure of him running along the wall is phenomenal. That is awesome. The pose is great. It's a great running pose. The way the arms are splayed out, and even though it's super small detail, you can see there's the thumb, finger, and the other fingers together. So the way his hands are splayed out, the shadow on the back of the legs is and the arm here is very, very good. This is an awesome, awesome figure drawing of a character running, and on top of it, running along the wall. That is really cool, and it's something that, again, just for me, sometimes it's the smallest details of stuff that is excellent. That is a really good Spidey drawing right there, even though it's as small as it is. And then the last thing I said, I did really like this Dutch angle as well. We've talked about that a million times. You take essentially your camera, and normally your camera is perpendicular, so perpendicular, vertical, horizontal, to the world, and you tilt it, and you can go up and down this way. And these are the ways you normally take a picture or film or whatever, right? When you want to add drama, you take your camera and you turn it slightly off perpendicular, and now you do this stuff, and it creates a sense of drama, intensity. So here an alarm is going off. That's a great opportunity to use that Dutch angle. This alarm goes, and somebody's like, oh, that's a perfect place to use it. Okay, it's not bad. The fight itself is not bad. The stairs are not good. Stairs are not easy. And again, we just talked about perspective a lot when it came to the bricks. Stairs are the exact same way. You have to do it really right, you have to understand the structure of stairs and how they work. And then you also really need to draw them in a typically perspective grid. So a grid is just, instead of figuring it out in your head, you actually take your panel and you can take it on your drawing board and you put marks way outside the panel. Those are the vanishing points where you want everything to go out to, and you actually draw a little grid, and then that way it's all there and you can just follow the grid and put in whatever you want, so it's in the right perspective. These stairs are just a bunch of rectangles because there's no vertical component or horizontal component to it. It's all verticals. Now, you wouldn't be able to see the horizontal component until it gets below the horizon line, and then you're looking down and kind of where's your horizon line? Well, your horizon line is going to be where your vertical lines are perfectly straight, again, perpendicular to the vertical of the page. So that's going to be about here, this line right here under this word balloon. So realistically, this is the top of a stair. So you're going to see a little sliver of the top of the stair and then the front. Then this next one down, you're going to see more of the top of the stair and then the front, and then more of the top of the stair the further you go down. These are hard because unless you decide to light them specifically, like what I will often do is I'll shade, depending on where the light source is, I'll either shade the front of the stairs so that the light is hitting the top instead of that front piece, or vice versa. If the light is shining at the stairs, maybe it's lighting up that front and you're going to get some more shading towards the back of the actual tread, right? And that's how you can create that visual illusion. Otherwise, stairs are really hard, and this doesn't do it. This is just a bunch of rectangles. This isn't stairs. Same thing here. Like, yes, this is a little better because they're staggered and you wouldn't be able to see the front of the stair. So these aren't as bad. This is right. This is how you have to do it. You have to show that the horizontal and vertical component of the stair. But other than this one stair, this up here is kind of messed up. Not as big a deal because it's behind the figure. It's heading into the shadow. It's not so bad. But this stairwell here, this one here is not great. Again, it's supposed to be a curved stairwell that's wrapping around this, right? We can see it's wrapping around, I guess, a column or wall. And here they don't know how to draw it in perspective and curve it around, so it just goes off into space. But now it doesn't. So not the greatest. I mean, you can see, like, again, these here, when you're looking down at stairs, it's not quite as bad, but it's not great either. And that's probably because what you'd really be seeing is more like on this edge, instead of it being straight up and down, the stair would come back to us. Because again, we're seeing it in perspective. And so the back of the stair is closer to us. It's going to be larger. As the tread goes away from us, even though it's not that big, it's going to be slightly smaller than the back. And we don't see that because we have a nice vertical line here. So the back of this line should tip out, or the front of it has to tip in. One of the two. Yeah, and I mentioned the direction of the stairs change. So here it's bending around. So if you're Spider-Man, it's bending to the right, it's curving around, and now all of a sudden it's curving to the left. So the stairs were going that way. So as we're looking at Spidey, the stairs should be curving that way, and instead now they're curving to the left. It's not crazy and difficult. I mean, you could say they went all the way around a bend and now it's bending the other way, but it certainly doesn't appear that way. We still have all of our figures. We've got our three guys, the guy in the green suit, the brown suit, the sort of grayish brown suit. They're all sort of here. There's the green suit guy. So it's not like they went that far. So all of a sudden the stairs change direction, and that doesn't work. This I really, really like. This is great. The head, the fist. This is an excellent Spidey here, as he's hanging down and picking this guy up off the ground and threatening him. Very good fist there. I like the head. I like the little hint of the nose and how the shoulder slightly overlaps the jaw as he's pulling the guy up. That's really good stuff. This is a good figure. This is a very nice Spidey drawing. And actually the lighting's fairly consistent. We have a little bit of shadow under his ribs as well as the back of the guy's hand. So you can see that the light is coming from above. That really works very, very well. Of course, suddenly at the wrong time, Mary Jane comes in. And Mary Jane, you're like, She's like, what's happening? Um, and even though she's been grabbed at gunpoint and Spidey has to save her, so he webs the gun, swings off with the guy, she's still being ditzy, flirty Mary Jane. Like, what is the deal? Don't you have any brothers? Like, be serious for 2 seconds. Um, but this version of Mary Jane I've mentioned is not my favorite. She does it. She's not a fully fleshed out character. I don't feel like at this point. Um, she's a little bit on the ditzy side, which I think is what attracts Peter to Gwen. She has a background in science. She's a little more grounded. Mary Jane is very flirty and flitzy, ditzy, and that really does come to a head all the way until, spoilers, there's a tragedy, and that's when we start to finally see the real side of Mary Jane. But it's going to be a while. So like I said, Spidey takes care of it. I like this as he swings away with her. Great stuff. This page is very, very good. The big eyes is great. The way that he swoops her up and kicks the guy, knocks the guy out, and then swings off with her. You can see her fingers are grabbing like his face, and you know in his mind he's like, "Get off! Just get off me! Would you get off me?" But the figure is good, and then this one here as well. He's sort of leaping off the wall. This one is awesome. This is a great Spidey piece. Great pose. Love the hands. Nice big thick outlines. Muscular, but not nearly like, look at it, like this one. Yes, he has muscles, but he's not nearly as jacked up as that other one that we saw before. This fits terrific. I really like this pose. I think this is excellent stuff. So this is a good page for Spidey. He's got to find Captain Stacy, find out what's going on. So he's heading back, up the stairs now. Find some bad guys. Good wall crawling picture here of him. Was it good down shot? Oh yeah, the down shot here of him webbing up the bad guys is nice. So we see he's up on the ceiling. They don't see him. And then instead of seeing him webbing them, it's almost like a point of view. Like it's Spidey's POV of him looking down as he's webbing these guys up. I like that a lot. I think that's great. That's really nice. And then he kicks in this door to find out what's going on. He sees Captain Stacy, the scientist, and the Brainwasher. And he's like, who's the Brainwasher? And surprise, surprise, it's the Kingpin. So we've got the Kingpin back. So those of you who think of the Kingpin and you think that, well, the Kingpin's a Daredevil villain, right? He is, but he started as a main Spider-Man villain before being used in Daredevil. So we have Spidey to thank for the Kingpin. So nice. It's not a shocker because unfortunately it's the last panel on the page of the book. So we see it the instant you turn the page, you see it. So it's not a big surprise. But it is a nice piece there. And the Kingpin, the way John Romita has always portrayed the Kingpin, right? So he created the Kingpin visually, created the look. It's really good. The thickness of the head, the neck, the chin, the sort of double chin, the big hands. Really nice depiction of the character. Realistically big and not cartoonishly like 10 feet tall and 20 feet wide like we sometimes see today. So there we go. Great stuff. That's the end of the book. And we're going to cut it back over to the desk and wrap things up. So that is The Amazing Spider-Man 59. It's a interesting comic. I would argue it is a comic or story of the times where you have, like I said, the go-go dancing, the cameras, the kind of, I don't know, it's a little weird. But it's a setup for now. Again, how do we get the Kingpin back in? And the Kingpin is working on a way to take over the city through brainwashing officials. Cool, interesting concept. I want to see where it goes. I like the book. There's some really good parts to it. There's some pieces that I mentioned that I thought didn't work or things that could have been different. Again, this art team, certainly not, I don't like it as well as just John Romita. John Romita Mike Esposito or John Romita. I prefer John Romita inking himself, but that's just me. And but overall, it's pretty solid. I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's more of it is good than bad. Not my favorite, but I'm very interested to see where it goes from here. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank you again for spending your time with me to review this comic. Don't forget, as I mentioned, 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. You can win free art just by being a subscriber. So don't hesitate to click that button. It's 100% free, and all it does is help out my channel and the algorithm and get us in front of more people. So please consider it, and you too can be an art winner just by clicking the button. Thank you so much. I will see you here next week with even more Spider-Man.